will start recording as I, how about this? We'll just do this. There we go. Introduce myself to all of you. So my name's on the board. Evan is my first name. Gudmested is my last name. Probably if you ask 5 of my family members, they're going to pronounce that last name differently. I pronounce it Gudmested, even though it's an AD at the end. It is a Norwegian last name. So in the Summer Olympics, I was rooting for Norway. They did not really take home many golds. I was saddened by that. I am from Belleville, Illinois, so it's a 30-minute commute for those of you who are familiar with the Belleville, O'Fallon, Freeburg area, Millstadt, all of that, Shiloh kind of area. It's just over the river from St. Louis, Missouri. Born and raised there. I went to Belleville West, was my high school. I graduated Belleville West in 2003, so that gives you an idea of my age. I'm turning 40 pretty soon. I immediately after Belleville West went to Rankin, and I studied. Back then, they did not have a coding curriculum. They did not have application and web development. Back then, they kind of had a Cisco networking server track, kind of a PC technician. Graduated Rankin in 2005, worked in the industry for a handful of years, and I came back all in all, and I started teaching with about 5 years real-world experience under my belt. Now I'm lumping in some real-world experience while I was a student and that kind of thing. So the years there are a little, it's not, like I came back in 2010 and started teaching. I've been teaching since before that. But that's essentially my history, as far as educationally. Now, I always had the belief, graduate from Rankin, and Rankin's mission is to prepare you for the industry. And so I went to my teacher at the time and I said, hey teacher, I want to go to more school, I want that bachelor's degree, it's just something that I kind of see value in. And so should I do that after graduation? And my teacher then said, no, get a job and get your degree at night. And I chose that path for myself. That was the right path for myself. The reason being is I started getting real world experience faster. And I'm a believer in real world experience being the most important thing. And so I started getting that real world experience in 2005. So if you count my 2 years of education in IT, net I've been doing this for over 20 years now. I've been in this industry, which is weird because I certainly don't feel old, but that sounds like an old thing to say, that I've been in this industry for 20 years. My coding background. So my bachelor's degree was in coding. Okay, I got a computer science degree from Webster University. I went to night school. So I would introduce my coding experience. So I would start there, that's my education. My real world experience transitioned from help desk guy to server administrator guy, server admin, into developer. It was weird, but my boss came to me one day with one of these big thick books, and there was something called Sarbanes-Oxley, and everything needed to go more digital and less paper. And he said, hey, we want you to build a website that did X, Y, and Z, and I don't really know anything about it, so here's a book. And he put me on a small team of developers and some database administrators and we kind of like hacked something together, and the company started using it internal website for this company out of Clayton, Missouri at the time, which was really fancy for me, because Clayton's got a lot of money, and it was just really a neat experience. So educationally, programming started with my bachelor's degree. My real world experience did transition into developer, right? So that's under my belt. And I would even say it's really interesting. I'm in a unique circumstance because when I was born was 1985. When the internet and the World Wide Web became mainstream was the early 90s. I was a kid of the early 90s, literally learning. This is a little bit of the passion. I can look back in my childhood teaching myself HTML in the early days of the internet. Okay, I remember going to Six Flags with my best friend. I saw this guy just the other day. Going to Six Flags with my best friend and having this fun experience. I took a couple pictures, and I got home from Six Flags, and I wanted to make a website about it. I was like, oh, here's me and my friend on the Ninja, and we met these other kids, and we ran around and had this crazy fun time. And I wanted to make a website about it. I guess you would call it a blog before, in the early days of the internet, right? And so I had to go on, I learned htmlgoodies.com. I think it's still a website, but it's like, what is an image tag, and how do you do a video, and how do you make an image, and like these little fire images or whatever. So like, I'm in a unique space. I'm in a really unique space because I've been coding. And I understand HTML is not a programming language. I'm not saying that, but I have been writing computer code as HTML before CSS was a thing. Like literally before JavaScript was invented. I've been coding, So I'm in a really unique space. And so for that reason, I really enjoy like taking something that I know is in my natural enjoyment space. Like I naturally have always taken to this coding stuff since I was a kid. And I'm probably older than most of you. So that makes it unique. Anyways, so as a hobbyist, I've been writing code for a long time. I went to school for it. I got a degree in it. I worked in it. And then I've been teaching it for a long time. And that's my trajectory. When it comes to Rankin, again, Rankin's mission is to prepare you for the workforce. And so to transition it from about code, and that's part of this job, is understanding code, but the other part of it is understanding people. Like you are all people, and you're here for a mission, a purpose, to hopefully you're all here to work hard, learn as much as you can to prepare you for this workforce, right? And I think if this job were only about code, maybe I'd do it, maybe I wouldn't, I don't know. But the fact that this job is more than just about code, it's about code and people. And the helping people part of it is a big part of it for me, okay? Because I've been teaching for a while, I've helped a fair number of people get their start in this industry. And that's my reward. That's my reward, is being able to play, albeit a small role, some role in helping people get their start. And that's the people side. That's the reason I've been trying to do alumni interviews. You guys know this about me. I've had over 50 alumni interviews where I talk to developers of mine in the past, where it's hey, tell me about your job, what worked for you well, what didn't work for you well. That's another, I think, unique thing about me is that I've been doing this long enough. I have enough relationships because I care about the people side. I've maintained enough relationships that it's not too hard for me just to reach out to random people and say, hey, can I ask you a few questions? And granted, some people are like, no, I'm not into that. No, thank you. But enough people are open and willing to help their, pay it forward, if you will, because we've all been in your chairs. I've been in your chairs. They've all been in your chairs. And then they're willing to come back and pay it forward a little bit is what those boil down to. Okay. So, again, you know my name. Now, if you want to try and pronounce my last name, cool. Most students call me Mr. G, and I'm okay with that. Frankly, I'm not too much of a stickler for the name. I would say professionally, let's just stick with either Mr. Gudmestead or Mr. G. As soon as you graduate, you call me Evan. But for the time being, let's just stick with Mr. G or Mr. Gudmestead. I would appreciate that. That's my name. I'm from Belleville, Illinois. I'm actually 7th generation from Belleville. That's a weird thing my mom tells me all the time. So my family's been in Belleville for a long time. I'm still in Belleville. I'm on the west end of Belleville. If you know where the shrine is, if you've ever been to the Lady of the Snow Shrine, Christmas lights, exactly right. I live on the west end now. I bought my house. I'll tell you about this. Bought that house right when I graduated Rankin. I remember graduation was on a Saturday. I moved in like the Friday before. Nonetheless, that's where I live. So as I introduce myself, I have my list of things that I'm going to ask all of you. And so I will do the same thing. Again, this is like a little bit more personal than I tend to get on a normal day-to-day basis. We're talking a lot of code most of the time, but I'd like to introduce myself to you and you know a little bit about me so you know who's talking at you all the time. As a 40-year-old, I've had different hobbies over the years. In my youth, I was definitely into sports. Grew up playing soccer, loved soccer until I found basketball, and I really fell in love with basketball. I really loved basketball until I got a computer in my room connected to, back then, a dial-up modem, and I could start playing video games. And when I found my video game addiction, my sports life took a dump. Like my basketball career, I quit the basketball team my senior year because I found EverQuest. and this was late 90s, early 2000s, and whatever, my parents are divorced, and so I'd go over to my dad's house because he'd let me play video games all hours of the night, and I'd stay up all night playing video games and go to school with no sleep and sleep through math class, and I started becoming a lesser version of myself because of my video game addiction. Continued my video game addiction through my 20s. Started figuring out I need to get some sleep, but nonetheless, became I started working in this industry, and but I would say that I found balance a little bit better. Not just video games. Found a little bit of balance in my life. Always maintained the athletic side of my life. I've never stopped playing sport, whatever sport it may be. And so, in summary, sports, video games, kind of back to sports is the trajectory of my life. And so right now, I don't play video games. For better or worse, my wife, when I met her, she said, well, look, I'm if you want to play video games, cool, but just I'm not going to be with you. And I was like, yeah, I think I'm over that stage of my life. It wasn't a complete ultimatum like that, but I just gave it up. And I'm very happy that I did. Because it was a good form of entertainment. Video games were a great form of entertainment, but at the end of the day, you level up an EverQuest character, and then that character, ultimately you quit that EverQuest game, and all that time and effort, how many people have been there? Don't raise your hands. You put all this time and effort into a video game, and at the end of the day, you go on to another video game, and all that time and effort is a memory, is a good memory, but it was kind of wasted. We've all been there. And the thing about sports is, like, when you exercise, yeah, you can like gain muscle and you can lose muscle, but in general, that's like improving your longevity, and so there's more. Don't I sound like an old person? So today, hobbies. So today, right? So that's I can pretty confidently say that as a runner, so running is one of my hobbies. I run more than most everyone you know. I run a lot. I am training for a marathon, which is 26 miles. I started my first marathoning in 2014, so I've been running marathons for 10 years. And to give you like a perspective of what this looks like, last week and this week, I'm running about 80 miles per week, 80. So I'm running a lot of miles. That's 7 days a week. You can do the math. So call me crazy. I'm a little bit crazy, a little bit into the running. The reason I'm so into running, I'll talk about when it comes to my goals. I'm goal oriented, and I really want to accomplish some goals there. I'm also into chess, so maybe we call that gaming. Maybe we don't call that gaming. But I play. Any chess players in here?
Actually, chess is more considered a sport.
Okay, I'll take that. Chess is a sport. Any chess players? Look, that's right. Little. Not by any means I'm an intermediately ranked chess player, so I'm not. And I call myself an intermediate runner, so I'm not like great. I hit on my 10-minute games, I hit 1,300. Nice. So today I'm 1,300 on my chess rating.
That's pretty good.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a nice intermediate level there. So outside of here, again, hobbies include running, hobbies include chess. I did get into triathlon there for a while, just as another endurance sport. It's swimming, cycling, and running. One of my accomplishments there is I did the big triathlon you've probably heard of as an Ironman, where you swim a crazy distance, you bike a crazy distance, and you then run a marathon at the end of all of it. I did one of those in 2018. It was so much training for that. I said, no, I'm not doing that for another 10 years. I'll do another Ironman in 10 years. So I do have a plan to do one in 2028. Anyways, hobbies today. Chess, for sure. Running, for sure. Okay. I have a wife and a kid. One wife, one kid. My wife's name, Jenny. My daughter's name is Ellie. Ellie is 4 years old. Stating the obvious, kids will change your life. This child has changed my life. I was just like you back in the day. I'd, sleep until 2 o'clock in the afternoon on the weekends and, all this kind of stuff that all the college kids do. And now I'm a complete morning person. I'm a complete morning person. Like this morning, I had my alarm set, just to give you an idea, I had my alarm set for 4:40. But Seinfeld episode, the mental alarm clock, you guys know that episode? Mental alarm clock, I just woke up. I was out of bed by 4:30, didn't need my 4:40 a.m. alarm. I just woke up. I don't think I was that way before my kid, but between having a kid and a running life, which you got to do in the morning because it's 1,000 degrees outside, and kids, morning person. Any other hobbies? I mean, because running takes up such a big portion of my life right now, I'm just going to leave it at that. Chess. Oh, ping pong. I like ping pong. Again, I'm probably below. I'd put myself at an average ping pong player as well. One time, I had a student who was he was able to try out for the Olympic ping pong team. That doesn't mean he made it, but he was good enough to try out. And we went to Rankin's ping pong table, and we hit the ball a couple of times, and he had this really funny. He's working now. He's in the industry. He had this really funny, like, backhanded compliment for me. He said, "Well, you're a really good basement player. I can tell." I was like, "Well, thanks." So ping pong, and then back from the hobbies. What did you do this summer? I was talking to Ben. I was like, "Hey, vacations," and he had I'm sure Ben will share his Miami trip and had some friend time in Miami and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, well, as you have a wife and a kid, your vacations kind of change a little bit. My big vacation this summer was to New York, and we did a water park kind of thing just for the kid, So, anyways, when it comes to what I did this summer, well, I did work. I teach year round, so I teach year round. So, like you guys, I was here in the spring, but I also taught a summer section. That summer section literally ended, you guys know, a couple days ago. So then I had to finish that class and get this class ramped up. So my summer was working. Accomplishments and goals. So again, I'm going to ask this of all of you, and I'm a little bit winded right now, so you guys can give me a condensed version of this. You don't have to be as winded as I am. But again, I just like to say this, and or I like to introduce myself and have you guys do that. When it comes to accomplishments, what I don't want to do is stand up here and sound like I'm bragging. I don't want to do that. On the other hand, I think in order to help others, in order for me to help others, I need to be the strongest version of myself. And I think there's a lot of value in that. So if you know you got a strong person in front of you, they could take care of themselves and help others at the same time. I feel like if you're not a strong version of yourself, you're going to have a hard time helping others. Right? So I'm going to say this coming from not a place of trying to sound any kind of way, but I want you to know that the person standing in front of you is a strong individual. All right? And so accomplishments, I think there's something to be said for, being married and remaining married. That's an accomplishment, right? That is a big accomplishment in my life, right? Call it the crowning accomplishment is my daughter. She's a big part of my life. Love that little girl to death. So having a wife and a kid and a healthy relationship there, love both of them. Being a teacher for as long as I have, helping many others, definitely accomplishment. I mentioned already we've had a couple conversations in this classroom about money, and so I'm a subscriber of Dave Ramsey's, kind of a financial guru, if you will, in the public space. I kind of came into Dave Ramsey in my 20s. And like I said, it's been over 10 years now because I'm almost 40. And, I've always had the goal of becoming a millionaire. I remember a conversation with my uncle, and I was in my teens, and I told my uncle, I'm going to be a millionaire someday. And my uncle's like, what kind of teenager says that? What kind of teenager says, hey, you're focused on that? But money was always, especially as I was younger, money was always a motivator for me. So I always wanted to be a millionaire. So I remember reading a money.com, whatever, article early on. And I'll give you the formula. It was so simple. It was $500 a month for 30 years. You invest $500 a month for 30 years at the stock market average return, and that's the math to make your first million. You want to make $1 million. You invest $500 a month for 30 years at an average stock market return. And so I was like, again, I'm working at this age. I'm 20 years old, and I'm like, okay, let's go. I got 30 years. By the time I'm 50, I'm a millionaire, right? And that was the math. And I started working at 20. I started socking money away. I don't even know if it was $500 a month. I understand when you're younger, it's harder to sock away $500 a month. But I started socking away money when I was 20, and I'm 40, so I am on my journey. I am on my way, and I would even say I'm ahead of pace, right? If this were a race, I'm ahead of where I should be. So I've been socking money away for 20 years. So financially, kind of had that goal, and I'm well on my way there. So that's an accomplishment. Like I said, accomplishments, wife, kid. Additionally, I bought a house really young. That's a big accomplishment in my life. I live in Belleville, Illinois. And if you know anything about Belleville, Illinois, it's not Clayton. You can buy a house in Belleville today, a fixer-upper, for $50,000. Right? And that's what I did. I was like 20 years old, and I bought a fixer-upper in Belleville. And it wasn't quite $50,000. I think I bought my house for $70,000. I don't mind sharing that. Bought my house for $70,000. I'm still in that house today. I paid that house off in 10 years because it was $70,000. It's a chunk of change. I'm not saying it, but bought a house when I was 20, and I was 29. I had that paid off. And so now I'm 39. I've had a paid off house for 10 years. I've had no debt for 10 years. I don't owe a single penny to a single person in the world. I have no debt. My cars are paid for. My house is paid for. My college education is paid for. These are all things that I paid for, by the way, right? Because I started working so young and worked hard to do those things. So those are all, again, I hope you interpret that as not like some sort of whatever, but that's my past. Now, that's the past. Okay, again, I think it's important to talk about the past. Anytime you talk about the past, talk about the future. Like, what are your goals? And by the way, I'm going to ask these things of you. And sometimes, many times, students are like, I don't know what I've accomplished in my life. I kind of feel like, I'm 18 or whatever. I'm 25. It doesn't matter your age. And I'm like, And it's like, well, large percentage of Americans don't graduate high school. Large percentage of Americans don't attend a single day of college, right? I would even argue, if you're like, I don't even know what I'm going to say, just the fact that you're sitting in class here today is better statistically in those ways than a lot of people in our society. So you have accomplished things. I don't know that you stop to reflect on it. I think a lot of young people don't stop to reflect on their accomplishments, but you have absolutely accomplished something just by sitting in, I don't know what it is, but something like a third of Americans have never attended a day of college. You know what I mean? It's an accomplishment. Okay, goals moving forward. I mentioned my running life. If you've ever heard anything about running, you've probably heard of the Boston Marathon. What you might not recognize about the Boston Marathon is that, to run a marathon is a hard challenge because you're running 26 miles. But the Boston Marathon, you do have to qualify for. You just can't say, I'm going to go run Boston Marathon. You have to be a fast marathoner, right? Something like 1% of marathoners are fast enough for Boston. Okay? So that's a goal of mine. I am working crazy hard right now for that goal. I want to run the Boston Marathon. And to me, that would prove to myself, doesn't have to prove to anyone else, that I'm a good runner. I would prove to myself that I'm a good runner. It's kind of like chess. If I were to get my ELO high enough, I would prove to myself that I'm a good chess player. I am a goal-oriented person. I will probably share with you guys my process for setting goals, but I have a spreadsheet of goals. I have a spreadsheet of goals that involve many aspects of my life. Everything from health, wealth, career, family, friends. There's a category in my spreadsheet for spiritual. Okay? Point is, goals can be a good thing. I have many other categories of goals. I don't need to bore you with all of them. Okay. Why? Okay, so I put all-wheel drive, application and web development. That's how I remember our abbreviation there. All-wheel drive. Why did I choose application and web development? I already gave you that story. I think growing up the way I grew up and like coding the way I was in the early to mid 90s, like it just seemed like inherent part of me, right? I think I heard the advice one time that, you know, if you're trying to figure out what you want to do in this life, there was a moment or you can reflect on your time as a kid and what you enjoyed doing as a kid, and there's moments in that youth where you knew what you gravitated towards. And like you can use that as a sign, as maybe something that you would gravitate towards as an adult. Right? And so I think because I gravitated towards computers and code as a kid, let me tell you, my uncle had a business and he had computers at his business, and I was so fascinated when I would go to, you know, his basement just full of computers because he would work on them. And I was just like, oh my gosh, look at this. I don't even know what I was looking at, you know. And he upgraded my computer's RAM one time, and he made my EverQuest go faster. And I was like, this is amazing, you know. I mean, he actually put a dial-up modem in my first computer, and I had the internet. And I'm like, wow, you know. But I was just so amazed by whether it was code or computers or technology. And still today, I am bought into all the latest tech. You know, all this buzz around AI, I've been like a fly on crap with this AI stuff. I mean, the month that ChatGPT 3.5 got released, November of 2 years ago, 22, November of 22, I'm just like stuck on what is an LLM and how does it work and what are the benefits and what are the cons and what's the latest and all these different LLMs that all these different companies have and who owns what and what's going on. And I have been studying it since November of 22, and I still have a ton to learn. You know, yes.
Have you seen the Will Smith test?
Yeah, the Will Smith test is like him eating spaghetti, right?
Yeah, it's like the progress of the creation of generative AI and where it is now, and it looks like a video of Will Smith eating spaghetti now.
Yeah, it's a big old plate of spaghetti.
It's him.
Yep, definitely. And you've seen the evolutions of it throughout the years.
It looked like kind of a time lapse of pictures before, and now it looks like just him.
Yeah, yes.
Over a year.
Pretty impressive. I'm very, very impressed with all that. So why AWD? That's kind of why I chose AWD. I really do think it was inherently in a little bit of who I am. Last but not least is something unique about yourself. I'm going to ask you to share something unique and fun about yourself. Unique or fun about yourself. In the past, I would tell people, so I'm married, right? So I don't care as much about my hairstyle. So I cut my own hair. Sometimes I do a bad job. Sometimes I do a good job. So that's unique about myself. I cut my own hair. So there you go. I live in Belleville, and I have in the past and probably will in the future commute to work on my bicycle. It's about a 15-mile bike ride from Belleville to here. And what I do is I take main roads, 4 lanes, 35-mile-an-hour roads. So they're not like highways or anything crazy. And I come over the whatever bridge, come over a bridge with a walkway, the Eads Bridge, and then I take bicycle lanes and that kind of stuff. So that's unique about me.
You really are a morning person.
I really am a morning person. There's no better way for me to start a day of work than like biking to work, and then I'd get here and shower and clean up and that kind of stuff. Yeah, most mornings before you'll ever see me, I will have run some number of miles.
I wish I could have like 5% of that.
You could. And you may as you get older. You may as you get older. I didn't when I was in college. Most mornings I was like, hey, how are you? Hey, how are you? I'm asking my students all the time, good morning, how are you? And they will, it's just like a teacher to say, if I had a nickel for every time I heard, the very standard response is, well, I'm exhausted, I'm tired. And my response, kind of sarcastically, is yes, water is wet. You're a college student, of course you're tired.
You said that to me last semester?
That's right. That's right. Very standard, very standard.
We're not starting the argument. Water is wet.
No, you're right. We don't need to go there. I don't know what else is unique about me. I'll kind of cut that off there. Cut my own hair. I like to ride my bike to work on occasion. I guess before I ask you guys to do the same, any questions about me? Again, most of the time this is not class. Right? Most of the time I'm not talking about myself or my personal life or me. I'm helping you. Okay, but this is the time to get an idea of who I am. So please ask questions if you care to. Yes.
That Belleville Running Club website, is that your website?
So the Belleville Running Club website is something that I've worked on. Yeah, it's my website.
It's like your club too? Or?
It's I'm a member of the board.
Oh, okay.
And the current version of that running club website, like you will actively see me work on that and make improvements. It is like a bare minimum thing right now.
I see a bunch of your videos. So.
Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, it is. The Belleville Running Club is a website that I work on. It's MERN Stack, part of what we're going to learn. And like I'm going to be adding like user logins and being able to maybe buy something. There's going to be some features that we're adding this semester. So that is my website, yeah. Yep, it is hosted on Google Cloud. All of you will learn it's a simple process to deploy to Google Cloud. Get you some cloud credits. Any other questions about me? Or you've already heard enough? Ready to move on? It's okay. I do not have an electric bike. I've got a couple of bikes. I have 3 bikes. A Giant bicycle. I've got what else? I got 2 Giants and a Specialized, but they're road bikes, so they got the curved handlebars on the end there, as opposed to like the hybrids that are just straight. And I also have a triathlon bike, which is where you kind of get like in this position and like real like aerodynamic, or a time trial bike. Yeah.
You ever go mountain biking?
No.
It's pretty fun.
I believe you. I am risk averse in some ways. Now you might not think so. Like riding your bike to work might seem risky. Yeah, but riding your bike down a mountain seems way too risky for me. So I'm not the most risk-taking person. Never jumped out of an airplane. Yeah.
You say that as if most people have.
Well, I don't know.
I went skydiving.
You've gone skydiving? Yeah. Any other questions? Any other runners, cyclists, gamers? Everyone raise their hand if you're a gamer. Right? Raise your hand if you're a gamer. I know I can get some hands raised that way. Yeah, not everyone. Okay, cool. All right. Well, that's the intro to me.